Hi. Riter Radio 252. Brought to you by Brian Janik at thefinancialguys.com. All your insurance needs. 20-plus years as an independent insurance broker, and he will hook you up. Especially if you're approaching, or you know somebody who's approaching age 65, and it's time to start thinking about Medicare. He's got it all covered. He thinks for you, and you don't have to pay him. So you should probably find him at thefinancialguys.com. The Financial Guys are also one of the sponsors of the big event, which gets rolling tonight. Very excited. I'm very today's show is going to be a distracted one. Bob Gaughan joins me at 11. He'll help us focus a little bit. But all I'm doing, I felt this way at 2:30 a.m. I sent a message to somebody. I don't remember who. Oh, it was an email. Said, "So good luck with the show tomorrow." And I was like, I'm ready. But I'm just sitting awake thinking, what did I forget? What am I not remembering? And to be quite honest, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a great venue. The stuff's all going to work, right? You know, it's not like when I'm just doing this thing in my basement. I'm not alone tonight. I've got a lighting guy. Oh, I was like, for example, if he was here, he would have reminded me to turn on this one. I don't even know how to light my own thing. I sit at my own house there. That little bit actually matters, I feel like. Brightens it up. I was looking at, I was going through stuff for some reason and kind of editing and whatever, and came across even shows from a month or two ago. And yeah, I did like a makeover on me, so I look better, but just the overall vibe of the show, when I was sitting, I had curtains behind me and like the bookshelf, and it was just dark and dingy, and I don't know why you guys stuck around. I don't know how you would stick around looking at that for 252 episodes. But the last, since I moved the thing, and I had the UB logos behind me, and then we put the wood wall behind me, and that's better, and I got more lighting, and I've been looking at getting even more lighting, and the audio all seems to be working today. So, it's cool, but this is nothing compared to a venue that's designed to host typically music events, but there will be music playing. But tonight is the debut of Brain Vault, which is why you're going to see this thing on the screen right there. I feel like one of those, not TikTok videos, but like the shorts, where it's like an ad for some app that's going to fix your life, but the person doesn't talk because it's probably not a person, it's just an AI thing, and they just go like, that kind of stuff. I'm doing it wrong. Everything's in reverse when I'm looking at the screen. Brain Vault, tickets available, thecasbuffalo.com. It's pinned in the chat right at the top there. And tonight's the debut. I got to say, I was thinking about getting in touch with somebody I lived with in college or somebody I was around in college. What this feels like to me is when we would have what was called an open party. So I was in a fraternity. No, you don't say. You still hang out with the same guys from 26 years ago every year. Do fantasy football. There's an ice fishing trip. No, that doesn't sound like a dude in a fraternity at all. I always said, we're not frat boys. I mean, I guess we were, but lifelong friendship, still pretty cool, right? Anyway, one of the things that would happen, you're in a fraternity, and there would be the weekend, there were plans. There was something, and weekends start on Thursdays. That was the first thing I learned when I got to school. The first day. All right, well, no school tomorrow. Then we've got school in a couple days. Then, we got to wait for the weekend. The weekend starts on Thursday. Just straight up, there are big, massive open parties on Thursdays. Oh, that's cool. And you go and you spend usually $4 to get in. All of it illegal, of course. But these massive parties existed, and you were competing with other organizations having these parties. So you'd have a schedule, and it'd be like, all right, Thursday night we've got a sorority party with so-and-so, and then Friday there's a happy hour with the pledge class from this, and we got that with this sorority, and then Friday night we're having an open party, and then Saturday we've got this other event. We always had Thursday, Friday, Saturday events, or at least that's how I recall it. Maybe it was 2 out of the 3, but there was always stuff. But if you didn't have something scheduled with another organization, like a specific party with them, then you had the opportunity to hold an open party. Open parties were great. First of all, I don't know. I didn't feel that bad about selling beer to underage people when I was underage. It didn't seem like a big deal. How did we get the beer? I don't remember. I guess you always had to have somebody who was 21, and you're in college. Somebody's around. We've got seniors. We've got super seniors. We got dudes sticking around for 7 years. There's somebody there. There's a Bluto or a Van Wilder in your presence at all times. So you can get at the kegs, but you had to advertise, but you couldn't advertise too well because you couldn't tip off the authorities that there was going to be a yard or a basement full of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22-year-olds drinking Busch Light. I believe a keg at the time was it $47? I think it was $47 for a half keg of Busch Lights. So that was the standard. And you'd try to advertise, but you couldn't, put up flyers. We didn't have the internet. That wasn't really a thing. It was coming. It was getting there, but I graduated in 96. Well, technically 97, but just as I didn't get my first personal computer until 98. So it was you didn't have to have it yet. If you wanted to use a computer, you went to a computer lab. Yeah, there was email and listservs and things like that, but it wasn't just put it on Facebook or Twitter or that stuff didn't exist. So it was kind of word of mouth. Maybe your past got a flyer, but you don't want written evidence that you're about to commit this crime. So you do what you can to make sure people know that you're having an open party, and let's say it's a Thursday night. But you know full well Thursday night there's one specific party that everyone went to, at least my freshman, sophomore year. And you're trying to pull people away from that. But you're trying to do so be cool. It's the 90s. You can't try too hard, right? So you're trying to be cool. But then it gets to crunch time. And I don't remember when parties started then. Was it 7? Let's just say it was 7 o'clock. Our party is starting tonight. And you would sit on the front porch or stand in the driveway or near the driveway or at the side door or wherever the people were coming in. And you would just watch a pack of people walking. You're like, ooh, there's 8 of them. There's 8 people. 4 guys, 4 girls. They're all going together. Are they coming to us? Are they coming to... Oh, they went right past our house. They're going to a different one. And then eventually you reach a point where you're out front, hey, come on in here, $4. Beer's cold. It's flowing. Got a band coming up or whatever, whatever it was. This feels like that. This feels like that. I can't stop looking at ticket sales. And, I'll be straightforward on this. The venue holds 170 people. There's no part of me that thought, hey, we're going to sell 170 tickets for this first ever event. I was happy once the tickets went on sale, a week and a half ago. And it was ooh, 4, ooh, 8, ooh, 12. And then it just sat at 12. And then I was ooh, 19. And it was sitting at 19 for 4 or 5 days. And my thought all along has been, who's signing up a week in advance to come to something you don't know what it is? It's the first time we're doing it. And I think that's part of the appeal, is that it's the first time we're doing it. It's going to be very fun and exciting. I'm going to wear a sport coat. But my thought is, tickets are actually going to sell, some on Monday, and then I would think primarily Tuesday. You get to Tuesday, all right, is the weather acceptable? Can I travel? Can I get in a car and drive? Oh, good. School's happening today, so obviously it must be beautiful outside. My wife said it's 4 degrees. I don't know. She's my consultant for weather. I don't get it from anywhere else. Doesn't matter. I get it from her. I said, is it still cold? And she said it's going to be cold for another 2 weeks. I said, that sucks. So it's, 4 degrees, but no snow. Looks a little windy. No threat of anything. Now you know. Now today's the day that hey, I am available to move around a little bit tonight. I don't know that I would have sunk money into tickets. Even if this sounded like the greatest thing that's ever happened, I probably wouldn't have bought tickets until today. So we're doing a slightly heavier push. And that's why the little ad is right here, because I'm reminding you, and I put it in the chat, and I went on WGR this morning for a couple minutes with Jeremy and Joe, and just talked about it, hyped it up a little bit. I had to close out the website because I can't watch the the ticket sales. It feels there's too much like nervous energy. I don't care, and I said this yesterday. Tragically Hip famously would perform the same way for a crowd of 5 and a crowd of 10,000, and I think we're going to do the same. Me, Greg Bauk, Tim Graham, Jeremy White, all on stage. thecavsbuffalo.com for tickets. Doors are at 5:30. Show starts at 7. Wraps up around 9, so you can get home. You know, it's a school night and a work night and all that stuff. We're not keeping you out too late. But it's not just bar trivia where you're coming out. There's a lot to it. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a super wild, fun event. Tickets are available. So we were sitting on 19 for like 4 days. And then when I went to bed last night, I checked and it was at 32. So we sold, 19 leading up to yesterday and 13 yesterday. And I've been watching this thing develop. Nothing. I think it went from 32 to 33. Like one more person bought a ticket overnight. So we're just pushing it. And I've got a number in my head. I've had a number in my head of 60. If we've got 60 people in there, that's going to feel right. And then we're going to film the whole thing, and then we're going to turn that into videos. Then people are going to go, hey, what's that? I'll check it out. And then next week we have about the same, a little bit more. But by a month from now, we're up over 100 regularly. That's kind of how I view it. It might not be the exact track that it takes, but that's okay too. We're going out there to prove something. I went to the first hockey game that Sidney Crosby ever played in Buffalo, and that place was like a third full. So until people know, oh, this is something I need, I don't expect it to be jam-packed, but I expect the people who are going to be there are going to have fun, and you're getting in on the ground floor of something that I think is very exciting and new and fun, and I highly recommend it. So if you are at all inclined, if you like fun, if you like this show enough, because, it's still going to be me. It's this personality. I'm going to dress a little better, although I dressed a little better today. I have a green hoodie that I've been wearing around the house like all the time, but I can't wear it because now there's a green screen behind me. And so then my shirt would disappear and it'd just be my head floating around. So I had to get changed just to do the show, and I keep having to do that because I keep wearing this green hoodie. But that was like the last thing I had to do today was go put on a different shirt so that I would be visible on camera. But I got to be honest, man, I am, 4 days removed? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, we're 4 days into the new look, which really is just cleaning me up and having my hair cut professionally and have the beard like trimmed and shaped and that stuff. I'm liking it, man. And while I was looking for a third sponsor in time for the launch of Brain Vault tonight, I wanted a financial sponsor. Got one. Financial Guys. I can see my finger is dirty. I can see it in the... You know what that is? My windshield wiper came off the other day while we were out and about. It was a Sunday. About to go to basketball. We had basketball games out in Cheektowaga. The weather was terrible, but truck, 4-wheel drive, fine. And right as I'm about to leave, I scraped the windshield and poof, the wiper popped right off. I'm like, well, my hands are frozen. This thing's frozen. We'll just go without. So I had driver's side was this, and then passenger side was this. It was just a little stick, little beep, beep, beep. But then we got there. I had let the wiper thaw out in the truck and kind of cleaned off the ice and snow. And then my hands were just covered in black, and it has not completely come off yet. Like, I got stained. I don't know what that is. But wiper juice has stained, like this fingernail is like kind of grayish. It's all wiper juice. The wiper juice on my hands. Sucks. What was my point? It was probably about telling you to buy tickets. All right, Bob Gaughan's going to join me at 11. I put a thing out on Twitter and on Facebook this morning, all in the name of promoting the show, because today's the day. And I went to include the people who are going to be on the thing, and it's Tim Graham. I know that he's by Tim Graham on Twitter. It's Jeremy White, who I know is Jeremy WGR on Twitter, or X. And then I went to type in Bauk, and I thought he vanished. Or actually, did he vanish? Hold on. Now I'm screwing up my own story. Yeah, Bauk vanished. Bauk's not on Twitter anymore. He's a Twitter quitter. So I Googled him, and I came up with this article from October 30th, 2017. It's on a website called trendingbuffalo.com. I wrote it. Greg Bauk in 2017 This is the most Buffalo thing of all time. And I probably knew this at some point, but I forgot. Greg, so when I was at Trending Buffalo was also like Store 716 and Say What Communications. There's a bunch of different things. It's two guys that own the company. I worked for them for 10 years. It's where I wrote all the trivia games, the You Gotta Know Buffalo games. And we split up a couple years ago, but still remain friendly, all that. Greg had an idea because we were producing products. He wanted to put out a coloring book talking about what it's like to be a Bills fan. And that's what it's called, what it's like to be a fan in Buffalo. And it's all just torture because we were in the midst of a drought. At the time, Greg and others were doing some sort of a drought cast thing. And I'm combining stories because that was Ryan Nagelhout and Corey Griswold was the drought cast. But they had, In the Hunt. They did this In the Hunt thing, and it was like a football/comedy podcast. But the whole concept was, you remember how bad it was from, let's say, the end of Wade Phillips through McDermott getting here. That whole thing, it was a lot of press conferences like the one that we saw last week that people were flipping out because we haven't had anything that disastrous in 10 years. But that's just what it was like. But I want to read this to you, first of all, because I'm impressed with my own writing. I know I wrote it. It seems like something, if you read this today, you'd be like, oh, that's an AI thing. But I wrote as well as AI as far back as 2017. I just want to read this. The overall point here is I think Bauk broke the drought by putting out a product that was predicated on the Bills not making the playoffs. Put this thing out in October of 2017. The Bills made the playoffs in 2017. It was the first year of McDermott. They didn't make it the next year. They've made it every year since. I think Bauk did it. So the article, it's short. I wrote, you may remember Greg Bauk from his lengthy tenure at WGR Radio. You may have seen him perform stand-up comedy. You may follow him on Twitter. You may even listen to his podcast here at Trending Buffalo. Now you can color his thoughts. Greg's new coloring book is designed as stress relief for Western New Yorkers and illustrates exactly what it's like to be a fan in Buffalo. Hint, it's typically not much fun. Hear him talk about it in the above audio clip with WGR's Shope and the Bulldog. Inconveniently, this ode to suffering was released last week, sandwiched between the Bills' miraculous comeback win over the Bucs and yesterday's thumping of the Raiders to put Buffalo at 5-2 for the first time since the Taft administration. At best, the playoff drought ends this year, and the book title changes to What It Was Like when it gets reprinted in 2018. At worst, the season collapses, and the book becomes even more relevant. Either way, you can buy it now at store716.com. That's 9 years ago, 8.5 years ago. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I liked the writing. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a good idea. His coloring book was a good idea. Somebody in the chat asked, will Bauk sign my book tonight? I can't vouch for him, but yes. I mean, BYO pen. I don't know that Bauk walks around prepared or Sharpie, whatever it is. But yeah, if you're coming tonight and you have something you'd like to say to any of us, me, Jeremy, Greg, Tim, you'll get the opportunity. Whether that will be out loud as a part of the show or during intermission or after the show or before the show, I don't know. But we'll be accessible. I know. I was starting to say, I've had a number in my head of 60 people will make this the full experience. It holds 170. I'm not planning on that. We were at 33, I think, the last I looked. But I also think, I anticipate, some walk-up sales. But people just deciding this afternoon, yeah, let's do that. I think it's very reasonable that we get to, let's say, 50. 50 is that's a full show to me. That's a crowd. Inviting 50 people to try something new and pay for it it's a pretty big reach. I started to say this too. We've got two sponsors. One is the financial guys. One is Buffalo Trim that did this to me. I should have the before and after photo just up here at the ready to show you the difference between what I looked like on my own and what I look like with the help of, as it turns out, Isabel at the North French location. But they've got 6 different locations, and I think you can trust all of them. They're open every day. You don't need an appointment. Walk in anytime. There are TVs everywhere. There's a pool table. They call it billiards. That's how fancy they are. Most importantly, a haircut's $25. You get the working man package, man package. Haircut, hot leather, neck shave. That was awesome, by the way. I don't think I've had that before. Like, I was sitting there, it was a haircut. It was fine. I liked the place. She was nice. Cool vibe. And then I was lulled into, like, I'm just thinking, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm watching as this transformation is taking place. Imagine if the first time you've ever seen me is now, and I'm talking about how good I look. That must be terrible. That would be jarring. Like, this guy thinks he's handsome. Like, no, I'm just better than I was last week. Good God. But I was like in the zone. Like, okay, I'm getting a haircut. I'm in a chair. I've got a Zubaz, not apron. What would you call that? Bib? What do you call that thing? Either way, it's probably fine. The sheet that they put over you, it was Zubaz. I felt very Buffalo. and she was gone for a little bit, and then she came back, and hot towel on the back of my neck, and I went from this to, oh. It was just, like, I didn't expect it. I knew it was coming. I knew it was supposed to happen, but I was not prepared for the feeling of that. So they give you a haircut, hot lather, neck shave, and shampoo for just $29, and that's at any location, and you just walk in. You don't need an appointment. As they say, give us a try, and you won't go anywhere else. So Buffalo Trim sponsoring Brain Vault, but by proxy also sponsoring this show, because we're going to talk about Brain Vault a lot, because it's a big deal. I do all this for free. That's a ticketed event. I ask you to please show support and come on out. I'm also trying to not just consistently hit refresh. I closed out the screen with the ticket sales. I would imagine they're going to go up, but the watch pot never boils thing, like, I need to stop looking at it, stop thinking about that, and get through this show, and then figure out what I have forgotten about tonight. Because I know there's going to be something. This is all I think about, and it's all I do, and I sit up late prepping things and printing things and saving things here and setting them up for online usage and all this stuff. I know I'm going to get there and be like, I forgot a pen, or whatever it is. I forgot to wear shoes. So that's the stuff that's going to be ripping through my head. My dad will text me all the time when there's something that's no big deal. It's like, I was up all night thinking about it. Like, you're up all night thinking about how to best melt ice on a driveway or whatever. Like, it's always something real little like that. But this is like a whole thing. I may want to take a break and start, stop, encoder, or lower bitrate or something. Stuttering got worse. Buffering. Huh. All right, well, I'm not sure how to adjust that, but I will try. All right, let me try. All right, stick around. Gonna try. Hopefully. Gonna try reconnecting. That's a waste that I'm going through all that stuff. That's okay. It's better than Friday when I did a whole show for no one. All right, we're going to stop this and resume. All right, I will be right back. All right. I stopped it, and then I restarted it, and I've got to trust in you guys to let me know if this is any better. You might be behind at this point, so I don't know. I'm looking at 10:39 a.m. as I'm saying this. It might be 10:41 by the time I hear something back from one of you. So now might be a good time to play music and see if that's working, and that way I can adjust things on the fly. Nick says, I think that's 10,000 times better. No stutter. Maybe I'm having a stroke. Maybe it was a stuttering problem for me. Did that cross your mind? Anyone think of that? Maybe there's something wrong with Brad. There's a lot of things wrong with Brad. Maybe this is one of them. So do I repeat everything I just said? Because that seems crazy. It instantly caught itself up, says Nick. All right. Thanks, man. Well, I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear and how stuttery it was, but hopefully we're back up to regular speed and everything's cool. My overall point is, if you haven't bought tickets, please buy tickets. If you did buy tickets, please recruit other friends to buy tickets. I'm trying not to stare at the ticket count as the day goes up, as we get closer to the event. And I want to think about other things. I'd love to think about anything else, which is why it'll be nice to have Bob on at 11 o'clock to kind of reset and reframe this, because I'm all over the place. And I think in part because the show didn't actually air on Friday, in part because I think it was an awesome conversation, and in part because I've got stuff to do to get ready for tonight. I think once Bob is done, I will take a quick break and then let you hear from Nick Bakay, who did not air live on the show. He'll be, he was a part of episode 250, which was Friday, and it was spectacular, and no one saw it live because I forgot to hit go live. That one's on me. Today, the stuttering, buffering issue, that's not me. That's technical, YouTube stuff. But I blew it on Friday. So, maybe you've already heard if you go back and listen to the shows or watch the shows after they're done, maybe you've already heard it, but lots of compliments from the people who did get a chance to see episode 250, which I ended up airing on Saturday and still exists on YouTube. You can find it. But I was looking at some of the stats, and it's like 43% of the people only watch the live stream, and 46% only watch videos after they're posted, and then 10% do both. So I'm thinking the majority of people who are listening right now, or a good chunk anyway, of people who are listening right now or watching right now, have not heard or seen the conversation with Nick Bakay, who's awesome. And it's long, and it's about sports, and then it's about Netflix and just the media industry and movies and the Oscars and one battle after another. It's really good. So I think that's what's going to happen is I'm going to take you up until 11 by myself. Bob Gaughan's going to call in at 11. We'll have him on for his standard, 20 minutes or whatever he normally does. And then I'll play a song or something. And then Nick Bakay will carry you through the end. And then I'll see you tonight at the Kaz. Hopefully every single one of you can make it, unless you're in, you're out of town or whatever. All right, I want to go through the rest of the chat here. Good morning. Nice song choices. Somebody like Jay-Z. Hey, C-Man like Jay-Z. Oh, Spotify Premium. So you guys have been bugging me about it. And I said, there's no way I'm paying a dime for Spotify. I don't care that once in a while I'm in a break so that I can prepare for the next segment, and you guys have to sit through a commercial for Kia. It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother Mia at all. You got a little bit of Kia. Well, that doesn't play the same way at a live event like we've got tonight. Brain Vault at the Kaz, thekazbuffalo.com. And I've got a whole pregame playlist. Doors are at 5:30. Show starts sharp at 7. You'll want to be in your seats by, 1:45, something like that. And there's a whole plan for music, but to simplify it, it's easier to just make a playlist in Spotify than it is to, download all these songs and put them on my actual laptop. And Spotify's going to work. It's going to work great. So, but I can't have commercials playing. I can't invite you to an event and then make you sit through that, that Kia commercial or whatever. So I decided to bite the bullet and sign up for Spotify Premium, which is free for the first month. So that'll get me through 3 to 4 shows. And then we'll see if we like it. We'll see if we need it. But that is helpful for Riter Radio because now the commercials have been eliminated from that. So a little positive there. Although I will say this. I've been hesitant to pay for something that I don't really need to pay for until I needed to pay for it. It's free, right? So I go in, and it's, I'll be charged $12.99 a month starting a month from now if I don't quit. And they'll notify me a week before to make sure I remember, whatever. But I get to choose my method of payment. And the first one it had in there was my, a debit card. I was like, I don't want to use the debit card. I want to use PayPal. PayPal does connect to the debit card, but first use the PayPal balance. And then if you need to go to the debit card, go to the debit card. I want to do that. $0 for the first month. I set the whole thing up. Definitely PayPal. Definitely selected use PayPal balance first. Definitely said $0. And 5 minutes later, I look at my email, and I have a receipt for $2 that went from my bank account to Spotify. So that's not 0. That's 2. And that's not PayPal. That's my bank account. So we're off to a terrible start from a relationship and trust standpoint. It's $2. It's fine. But you said 0. And I said PayPal. And you're like, all right, 0 PayPal. I'll take 2 from checking. I don't feel great about that. I like what it's going to do for the music. I like what it's going to do for this show and for the show tonight. But we have a relationship built on trust here, Spotify. And if you've already... You've broken a little bit of it there. I want to love you. I want to love the fact that I have commercial-free access to everything ever recorded. But you said 0. We agreed upon PayPal. Then you're like, okay, 0 from PayPal. And you took 2 from checking, and I don't like it. All right. I am not a juggalo. Okay. Just reading through here. I mentioned the Spotify Premium. Nick said, damn, I was going to grab a gift card after work to bring you. I pinned the ticket link at the top of the chat. The Blueprint 3 is a great album. Should have stayed on it, said AC Man. I then explained I never tried to play an artist twice in a show, or I try to never play an artist twice in a show. Nick asks, can I get Greg to sign his book? When he said book, I thought of the coloring book that we talked about. But he also wrote a novel called Frank Dates, which predates the coloring book by a lot. And the coloring book is now 9 years old. So, yeah, if you've got a copy of Frank Dates and you want Buck to sign it, I'm sure he'll sign it. I think he gets excited every time he sees a copy of it. I have a copy of it somewhere, too. Mine is probably also signed. They don't see it on this shelf, but there are other shelves. All right, more of the chat. I said you definitely can get Greg to sign whatever you'd like. Although I can't speak for him, but I think he'll be fine. Someone suggested that Greg sign Nick's back, and then he can make it a tattoo. He said, no, that's what I'm asking Brad for. What about Jeremy? He said you could 3D print another wide receiver train for him to sign, and then you could sell it on eBay. I said I can't promise anything on behalf of anyone else, but I believe everyone will be accessible at some point tonight. There's going to be some milling about before the show. I probably won't be a part of that. I'll probably be hidden until the show starts, but I'm getting there at 5 o'clock. Doors open at 5:30. I told everybody else, get there at 6:45. You'll be fine. For the others, for Jer and Greg and Tim. All right, quite the music variety pre-show today. I said I'm not just into 90s alt-rock. Reminds me of Linus on Peanuts. It was Fish. It was Fish, Megillah, kind of a jazzy little instrumental thing that's, 2 minutes and 38 seconds long. It's off of Picture of Nectar. It's great. This guy said, interesting. This does not meet my mental image of a Fish song. If you don't know Fish, not unlike real fish, there are different flavors. I will tell you that I like the food, like fish as a food. Not fish food and not Ben and Jerry's ice cream fish food, but eating seafood I enjoy. But there are different flavors. And while I know it's really good for you, I think salmon sucks. But if you ask me if I like seafood, I'll be like, yeah. Then you put salmon in front of me, I'm like, not that. The rest of it, I can't think of other seafood I don't like off the top of my head. But I know that every couple years I try salmon again because people love it. And I'm supposed to like it, and I do not. I like it in like lox form, like the very thin thing you put on a bagel. That's all right. I like that. I like kind of the aftertaste, but there's something about salmon just doesn't work for me. Fish is similar. Fish the band is similar in that you might like their rock type of stuff, but hate their jazz type of stuff. You might like the jazz stuff, but hate the improvisational jamming stuff. My wife claims to hate Fish, but as long as they're not singing, she seems okay with it. I will concede that Trey is not a great singer. Paige is a better singer. Mike is his own thing. Fishman is a joke of a singer, but it's fun. You got to be in on the joke. There's just a lot of layers to the whole thing. But I feel like I've kind of given up on trying to convince people to like Fish. That's 30 years ago me. And I was just like, you like it or you don't. And I'll mix some in, and you might like it, you might hate it. But you might not even recognize that it's them. Like I played a Fish song, and the guy said it sounded like, he said Linus, but I think he meant Schroeder. Or the Linus and Lucy theme, but like the Vince Guaraldi version of it. Like, yeah, there's stuff that sounds like that. All right, what else is on here? Nice View, probably. I would probably do that because you don't have to be so close to people. Oh, yeah, the ticket sales. At last check, it was at 33. There's a upper deck, balcony, mezzanine, whatever you want to call it. Someone bought 2 tickets in the front row of that. And I can't wait to see who it is. I have an image in my head of who it might be that might have bought, but there's plenty of room on the main floor. And somebody's like, I'll sit up there by myself. Well, two of us. We're going to sit up. You're trying to make out? What are you doing? Is that what you're going for? I want to be behind everybody. I can't have it. Maybe it's someone who fears retribution for something they've done, and they want to keep the whole room in front of them. I'm not sure, but like looking at the seating chart and seeing 2 tickets sold upstairs. We'll get to the upstairs part. I don't think you need to sit up there tonight. I don't think that's necessary. What was this? Oh, there's another question. Oh, the computer lab thing. I was talking about, advertising open parties in the 90s at school. You couldn't do it online. You had to just kind of do word of mouth. This online thing works out well. But like I said, I graduated 93. 7, technically. I went to school, should have graduated 96, still needed 3 classes. So I went 1 extra semester, commuted from here to Geneseo. It was terrible, but did fine. And I was all done. I was waiting for my degree to show up in the mail, and it never did. And then I called the school to ask where it was. And they're like, oh, you're 1 credit short. So I ended up taking a class in the summer of 97 to secure the degree. And then by the end of that summer, I was working in radio, and here we are 29 years later, hanging out doing this, hosting a trivia show, a live trivia event. It's not trivia night, it's a trivia show. I think trivia night is in the banner ad, but I don't know. What else is on here? A lot of stuff about restarting the encoder. We did that. Haven't heard any complaints since, although I haven't scrolled to the bottom of this yet. Caught itself up. Issues went away. All right. Salmon on bagels, elite, says Bill. Lox is great, says Jay Bud. Not a fan of smoked salmon, asks Bill. I'm not. Not at all. Bill, if I'm feeling snazzy for a weekend brunch, I'll do sourdough toast with a smear of organic cream cheese and smoked salmon on it. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Well, they have snacks at the venue. I don't know what snacks. There's a menu. There's a menu at the venue. Venue's got a menu. As Nick says, not sure about snacks, but they have a full menu. LOL. Yeah, that's there's food. There's a bar. There's a menu. They want me there to bring you guys in so that they can sell food and drinks. That's how the business operates. I want you there so that I can have fun and record video stuff to promote this so that it can be bigger and better in weeks to come. So we're all kind of working together on this thing. Very excited that they are giving me an opportunity. Jake Schneider, the owner, Jeremy Hoyle, my good friend, is the music director over there, and he's the one that reached out and said, hey, could you do trivia on Tuesdays? And I said, well, if we're going to do trivia, it's going to be bigger than that. Once I got to look at the venue, I'm just walking around like, holy crap, look at this place. If you haven't been there and you're coming tonight, I hope you are even almost as impressed by the show as you are by the venue. You're going to feel like you're at a real thing. I could go up there and all over the stage, and you'll still be like, that place is awesome. Brad sucks, but that place is awesome, because it is. Also awesome, Buffalo Trim and the financial guys for helping make all of it possible. Started telling this earlier and lost track of my thought. One of the things I wanted to do is get a clothing sponsor, because my thought was Brain Vault. It's in an old bank. There's kind of a bank theme. Let's class it up. We'll have a financial sponsor. We've got that in the financial guys. I've got to get cleaned up. We'll have a grooming sponsor. And then I thought wardrobe sponsor. And I reached out to one place and never heard back. And then I went into another place and kind of took them by surprise. I got fitted for a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, hey, can I talk to the owner? And the owner was like, what are you doing? I was like, I know I'm doing it out of order, but here's the plan. And I think they wanted to see a more finished product before just committing to some guy that they didn't know walking into their store asking for free clothing and money. So I gave up on that. I'm like, you know what? I've got some clothing. I can wear my stuff. And let's put together the video. And then we go back in and go, all right, here's what it looks like. And I would look better in your suit than I do in this stuff that I already owned or that I have assembled over the last couple of weeks. Because that's the next sponsor that I'm looking for, is a clothing, like a menswear type of place. But I won't even say 0 for 2. I got nothing out of a phone call that I made. And then I got a little traction. And I've got a business card. But I want to be a little more prepared. So we don't need everything to come together for week 1. We just need to get it in motion, get the ball rolling, get some people in there, get a feel for what we're doing, and then proceed. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, play like one song while we await Bob Gaughan, who's going to join me in just a moment. Stuttering again, like 95%, getting the point across, but worth redoing what you did before during break. All right, well, that's what's going to happen. We're going to hit stop, so we'll go away for a minute, but just stay right here. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to play a song. Bob's going to stop, song. I'm going to start a song. I'm going to hit stop. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Stick around, all right?
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Let's check in with Riter Radio's
living legend,
Bob Gaughan.
Do that. Let's do that right now. Bob Gaughan is here, weekly appearance on Riter Radio. Kind enough to join us on a Tuesday this week. What's up, man? How are you?
Good, Brad. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all fired up. We got this live trivia thing starting tonight, and tickets are on sale, and I'm pumping it all up. And I was on GR this morning talking about it with Jeremy because he's going to be there, and Tim Graham's going to be there, and Greg Bauch's going to be there, and he's going to do a stand-up set to start the second act, if you will, after the brief intermission. And I'm excited. I'm going to have a sport coat on. I got my hair cut, my beard trimmed. I'm ready, man. I'm ready to be presented on stage. I've never been in a situation like this before where I'm like all well lit for a thing designed by me. So I'm not nervous, but there's like an energy that's kicking through me. That's all I'm thinking about, you know? I'm like, what am I going to forget?
Well, I'm glad that I wasn't invited to the grand opening, but I'll see if I can make next week. All right, if I get the invitation, I'll try and be there because you don't want to blow everything on everybody you know on the first time.
That's right.
You know, you want to spread it out a little bit. So my invitation obviously got lost in the mail. So now I'll try and make it next week.
I wouldn't waste you on the first episode on a trial run. Why would we build to you, Bob? I think
that's right.
Everyone knows that.
Hey, I got a trivia question for you.
All right.
And I don't want to sound like old guy here. I really don't.
Good luck.
I don't want to sound like, old bitter guy, but did you ever get a snow day because it was cold?
No.
I
never got a snow day at 5 o'clock on a Sunday either.
No. Aren't we raising
Sunday.
a bunch of pansies?
Yes.
Aren't we raising?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's not just me then. It's not, and at what age? At what age did we start getting snow days because of cold? Because I'm telling you, anybody that is 40s, 50s, 60s are all saying, I even think the 30s. I don't think my kids got it. In my late 20s, I don't think my kids got a day because it was cold. I mean, you got it because of snow. I really believe that we're raising a bunch of pansies.
Yeah, well, there are two ways. I remember maybe once ever where it was like, historic, like it's -10, and with the wind, it's -35, and we don't want kids on the bus. And I can see how that could become a thing at some point. But you know when I want to know about it? I want to know about it at 6 o'clock in the morning when you wake up and that's the actual weather. My problem, A, is, yeah, we're canceling for cold. But B, we're canceling on forecasts as opposed to actual weather. Like, there are times when I'm planning on doing something and then I get up and I look outside and go, oh, can't leave today, can't drive now. And that's a safety thing. But I think it goes back to COVID. I think the year of COVID made it very simple for us to just cancel things with no repercussion. Like wrestling at UB got canceled. I do PA for that. It was supposed to be at noon on Sunday. They canceled it on Friday, and I can only assume it's because of weather forecasts and somebody's like, we don't want to drive a bus from Hofstra to Buffalo and back because somebody told me there's going to be bad weather. We used to wait for bad weather to actually exist before we canceled things. So that, to me, it's not about cold versus snow. It's about let's actually use our eyes and then our brains instead of our predictive models that hit it, 44% on a good day.
Well, three things here. One is I think there were two incidences. One is there was one time when the kids got stuck because the snowstorm hit like at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yep.
And it was a disaster going home. And I think we remember that, and there might have been lawsuits or something. So they never want to get into that one time, that it happened. And it literally happened once, and it happened about 5 years ago. And that kind of coincided with what you're talking about. And I think this is still one of the ill effects of COVID. Because when you shut schools down for a year and a half, you kind of set the precedent that going to school isn't that important. And that's really, I think that this is one of the, ill effects of COVID is that we are so quick just to cancel school. But I do agree with you. I think it does partly go back to COVID as well.
Well, and let me ask you this one. I could do this all day. This is all I'm thinking about when I'm not thinking about the show that I'm putting on tonight, and this show, I guess, too. But the idea that I remember arguing, debating, I guess, with my wife at one point, I don't know, a year or two ago on one of these days where they canceled school the day before. I mean, literally, we found out. I got a text message. We were still at basketball on Sunday, and it was crappy out. But we were at basketball in Cheektowaga and driving home just fine. Due to the weather, tomorrow there's no school. We had one a week or so ago that was out of an abundance of caution, we're canceling school. I think so. You've been a North Towns guy for as long as I've known you. I think you grew up. You went to Kenmore West, I think, right? So like,
Yep.
you're a North Towns guy. I grew up in West Seneca, which is not quite South Towns, but it's. I mean, Orchard Park's the next one down. We're sort of like Middle Towns, but I know that Orchard Park would have school closed a lot more often than we would. And then we would have school closed more often than Amherst would, and more often than Williams, because there's less snow in the North Towns. And I never totally bought it because I didn't hang out up here. But my wife was convinced we needed to move to Amherst, Williamsville, because the weather's better. And she's right. But guess what? There are teachers that live in Orchard Park that teach in Williamsville. And I think they're closing schools so that those teachers don't have to. So now I moved up here to get away from the snow. I'm still in Buffalo. You know what I mean? But
No, you're absolutely right.
Close the schools where you can't drive and have them open where you can, and use substitute teachers or figure it out. But don't shut down an entire school system because a couple of our teachers live in Boston or South Wales or whatever.
So there was a 10-year period in the Kenmore school system. And again, people will bear me out on this. And it was right after the blizzard. So from like 78 to 88, the Kenmore school system never closed. And I am telling you, I'm in the middle of that. And it was so frustrating because there were times I literally kid you not, we are the only school district going to school. Everybody else is closed except Kenton. And the guy that runs our basketball league for years, BSAC, was part of that. He went to school in the same time that I went to school. His name was Mark Zernheld. Great guy, runs BSAC basketball league. So we're running the basketball league, and this is his mindset. And I don't know if you've had this with basketball, because you got all these parents calling, are the games on? Is practice on? And I'm telling them, like, hey, Mark went to school in this Kenton says we never, it's always on. The games are always on. All right.
Right.
Get your kid to practice. I'm just telling you, get your kid to practice. We're practicing and we're playing the games because me and Mark kind of, and he ran it, but I mean, we went to school where it never closed. Right. Absolutely never.
That's how we do it.
That's our mindset. Our mindset is we're always on, and it has totally flipped the script. I mean, totally. It's more times than not, it's always off now.
Well, also, what about just individual decision? If you decide it's not safe for your kid to wait for the bus, then don't put your kid out there and you miss a day of school. We're not shutting it down for you. If you live too far away and you can't make it in because you decided to buy a house in Orchard Park and work in Williamsville and you don't have four-wheel drive or whatever, okay, then you're going to miss a day and you take a sick day or whatever you can take, use your PTO, however your union works, take the day off. Don't shut down the whole system. We had last Thursday was a snow day because we have one every week now. Last Thursday was a snow day. Two of my kids were supposed to have concerts. Those just get wiped out. There was supposed to be a basketball practice at school. That got wiped out. There were supposed to be two basketball practices at various schools. One is in Depew. One is in Cheektowaga. Those got wiped out because if the school district is closed, then the gym is closed even at night, even if the weather is fine. You know, the only thing that existed that day, we were supposed to have, it was going to be a terrible day for us, so it actually worked out really well, kind of clearing the schedule. But the only thing that existed was my 9-year-old's baseball practice because it was at a non-school affiliated facility. It was just a place like, yeah, we're open. If you can get here, yeah, come on in. And so we had a baseball practice, but everything else got wiped off. And that's the difference between business and government, really. Government, shut it down. Business, come on in. Let's stay alive. Let's stay open. That was the big conflict in 2020 as well. You know, we're still dealing with it. I don't like it.
Right, because my kid is a basketball referee, my oldest, and he's experienced it because if one of the two schools closes, it doesn't even have to be the home school.
Right.
If the visiting school closes, then the basketball game is off, and he's, it's costing him money because he's got all these games that are canceled. Yeah. And again, this is where he's coming to me, and this is why I brought it up, because again, he's 28 and he's coming to me saying, My memory is I never got a day off because it was cold. So I don't know when it started, but it must be somewhat recently, or maybe he just doesn't remember that it did happen to him. But it definitely didn't happen to you and me. I
No.
guarantee it never happened to you and me.
No, and look, I do get, like you said, the thing about 5 years ago. I thought you were talking about a thing from like 25 years ago because I got stuck in that. I was working nights at GR at the time. I was living in South Buffalo, and I want to say it was 2000, but it could have been, give or take. Well, it wouldn't have been later than that. So it was sometime between 98 and 2000, but 2000 sounds right. I lived in South Buffalo. I got a call from my buddy who was coming home from work at 3:00 and said, stay off the thruway. He knew the direction I was trying to go from South Buffalo up to Corporate Parkway in Amherst. He said, stay off the thruway. I said, no problem. Thank you. So I just took Harlem Road. And I was at the light at Harlem and Genesee. I was probably like the fourth person in line there waiting for a red light. And a truck jackknifed up in front trying to get on the 33. And that was the end of traffic moving for a day. So I ended up getting stuck there. My car didn't move. I slept overnight. At some point, so I had to do a show that night. I'm supposed to be on the air at 6:00. And I was working with Mike Maniscalco at the time, and I didn't have a cell phone because it was 2000. I think I got my first phone 2 years later or something like that. There's no way for me to say I can't get there. I'm stuck in traffic, but I'm stuck just like a bunch of people. A bunch of buses were stuck. It happened to a lot of people. It was a terrible day. I ended up, but at some point I went, well, it's Monday.
It happened to Rob Johnson. I think you might have been stuck with Rob Johnson. Remember, he got stuck. He got stuck on the same thruway.
Oh,
no, you're right.
All right. Well, maybe. Yeah, I didn't see him that day, but I ended up going, well, it's Monday. Cowboys are playing maybe the Redskins. Peter K's is right there. So I parked, whatever. I just got out of the car, left it in the road, walked to Wilson Farms, took $100 out of the ATM, walked to Peter K's, ended up sleeping on the floor there. It was great. I had chicken fingers. It was a packed house. We all watched football, went to sleep, got up in the morning, and we all dug each other out and went home, and it was chaos. But, that happened once. I'm 51. I can think of the one time that weather really screwed me. We don't need to cancel school every time we think it's going to be cold.
No, absolutely.
All right.
We got a lot to get to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Bills coaching situation. The big decision is: do you want to wait for Clint Kubiak? Do you want to wait for Kubiak or not? I mean, that's the decision, because I don't think it affects them, because the other three coaching jobs all suck. I mean, that they're with. They could wait for Kubiak. I don't think they're going to miss out on anybody. I really don't, because if your decision is to go to Cleveland, by the way, Cleveland's an absolute disaster. I mean, I don't know if you've talked about it, but my days of writing essays are over. They want their coaching candidates. I don't know if you know this, to write an essay.
Yeah, essays and personality tests and all this stuff.
I hate that personality. Did you ever have to take that stupid personality test where you had to, question 1, question 20, 40, 60, and 80 are all the same, and you had to answer them all the same way? Maybe once in your life, I had to take that stupid test. I hated that test. They're making them take that test. So nobody wants this job.
Well, at the end of it, you coach the Browns too. Like, you have to go through all that. You coach the Browns, and Scott brought this up just in a text message to me. But he's like, just to be clear, for me to be your coach, I have to do all this stuff. But you gave $270 million to Deshaun Watson. So, like, now you're making decisions based on what? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, it is.
If it was a good franchise, it'd be different.
It could screw the Bills, by the way. The one way it could screw the Bills is because one of the defensive coordinators, because the Bills are definitely going for an offensive guy, and they might be going for a young offensive guy, right?
Sure.
Whether it could be Davis Webb, it could be a Jacksonville guy. So we're going for a young offensive guy potentially. And if you do, then you probably want an experienced guy on the defensive side of the ball. And one of the names we mentioned was Jim Schwartz. Yep. Well, Schwartz might get the Cleveland job by default, because nobody else is interviewing for that job. Job is
pulling out.
It's a disaster. So you got that job, you've got the Raiders job. The Raiders job, I guess, is okay, because you're going to have Mendoza as your quarterback. Maybe that's somewhat okay. And then you've got the Arizona job, which I don't want Kyler Murray. So you basically, you've got Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Shadur Sanders, or Mendoza. It's a no-brainer. Everybody's going to hold out for the Bills job. So I think if you waited 2 weeks for Kubiak, I really don't think you would miss out on anybody. But if Kubiak's not your guy, then they're going to name the coach in the next day or so. because everybody else can be interviewed.
Yeah, I don't think I need a coach right this minute, which is why I'd be willing to wait. Like, I know you can't do an interview, but there clearly can be a, hey, would you like to interview the minute after the Super Bowl's over? Like, you can have that. And do you think you might be interested in the job? Do you think you're ready to be a head coach? You can do some stuff. You know, let's not pretend they're banned from speaking with him and there hasn't been contact, right? So if Kubiak is the guy they're interested in, I'm sure they'll know if there is mutual interest, and that would be enough for me to wait if that's the guy that I really think I want. So I don't know. I don't think I'm in a rush right now. Unlike a college program where you're constantly in a state of recruiting, not just players from high school, but players from the portal and players that you already have to try to keep them around. Like, every minute you don't have a head coach for a college football program, I think hurts you. Right now, there's nothing for a Bills head coach to do, nothing that's pressing. If they have somebody in place, I'd want him going to work and thinking about stuff. But I can take a couple weeks off here. If the kids can skip school because it's almost snowing, I can wait 2 weeks while my team doesn't have to play until September to have a conversation with the guy that I think I want to be my head coach.
Right. And the stupid thing is the NFL rules, though, because this is the thing that's aggravating, which is if Kubiak did interview with someone a couple of weeks ago, you can do a second interview. See, this is just asinine to me. Either you can interview or you can't interview. That's what the rule should be, one way or the other. But since the Raiders interviewed him once a couple of weeks ago, they can do a second interview with him this week, but the Bills can't do a first interview with him. This is just the NFL rules that are maddening. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. He should be he should be allowed to interview, or he shouldn't be allowed to interview. It's pretty freaking simple. Yeah. But he shouldn't be allowed to interview for the Raiders because it's the second interview, but not interview for the Bills because it's the first interview.
Well, I can't even think of what the logic would be. Usually when there's something that's dumb like that, I can at least say, well, I guess what they're thinking is blank, even if I don't agree with it. But I can't even imagine what's the difference between a first interview and a second interview. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's just one of the NFL rules that, I mean,
how did it get there?
We're talking about the NFL now.
How did the rule get there? Why is it there? What does it mean?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. It just makes no sense.
Did Cooper Kupp catch the ball this week? When how many plays have you seen?
All of them
that are just like what happened to the Bills, and then you got Gene Sarator. Gene Sarator was the ultimate. You talk about, I think he's still getting paid by the NFL.
Shill,
he's got to be still getting paid for the ultimate shill. When this week, when it was the backward pass, when they go to Gene Sarator initially, and Gene says, well, it was, the ball has to be, or it's an incomplete pass. It was the ruling on the field was an incomplete pass. And he explains to them why it was an incomplete pass and why the officials got it right. Then the officials switch the call, and he goes and says and explains
why it's not right.
Why it's not right. Why they made the right call again. So this is why they made the right call. Wait a minute. You just said that this was the right call. Yeah. You just totally changed your tune. It's maddening listening to Gene Sarator, those guys and again, everybody, I just want them off of the air because all they do are just mouthpieces for the NFL. It's frustrating. But yes, I mean, how many times are we going to see, the same play that the Bills had, and it goes the other way, and it happened again this week with Cooper Kupp in a really key play in the Seattle Rams game.
If you're the NFL and you notice that every single one of your broadcasts now features a former official who's there to try to make sense of what your officials are doing on the field, don't you at that point recognize that there's a problem? Like the fact that it's assumed that there's going to be a guy who's just there to explain what the hell they're talking about tells me that they're not doing things the right way in the league, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a punchline. It's an old joke. I don't know if you've probably heard this joke before. Guy gets a genie. Genie says, "I give you one wish." He says, I have a fear of flying. I want to build a bridge from L.A. to Honolulu. The genie says, that's ridiculous. I mean, the years of innovation that are not there. It's going to take us 1,000 years before we get this innovation. You got to come up with something else. The guy says, okay, explain to me what an NFL catch is. the genie says, "All right, so we got to build a bridge from L.A. to Honolulu, right? That's what we got to do, right? I mean, is that not where we are right now?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows what an NFL.
Well, just the
catch
made up
is.
stuff about it used to be.
Yeah.
Did he make a football move? And you're like,
Yeah.
they got rid of football move, and now it's an act common to the game. Everything you're doing is an act common to the game. They talk about, as he's going to the ground, you can see the ball moving. The ball is always moving as your guy's going to the ground. Even if he's holding it very firmly, it's still moving. So like they've made up this language, this cycle of words that don't really mean anything that we throw out there as if it's scientific proof that that they're getting things right. It's just you made it all up. None of it makes sense, and then you refer back to it as if it's factual. None of that's factual either. So it's tough. It's tough to wrap your head around it when it doesn't go your team's way. I can turn a blind eye to it when it helps the Bills, but when it ends their season, and then I've got to watch a 10-7 game between two mediocre teams in a snowstorm for the right to go to the Super Bowl, and then I get to watch the Patriots go. It's still clinging to my brain. It hurts.
Can I take a contrarian view to the disastrous news conference last week, supposedly, between Bean and Pagula?
Of course.
First of all, I think if Pagula would have just shut up after his initial statement, I think everything would have been fine. Because he comes out and he says, I went into the locker room and I thought, year after year, it's one thing or another. It's 13 seconds. It's a missed field goal. It's a bad spot on the first down. It's a missed catch by the officials. And I just looked at their faces and felt, I can't do this again. We have to move on. Something like that was his initial statement. I thought that was fine. I thought that was absolutely perfect. And I think even the 40,000 losers that signed that petition to bring Sean McDermott back. By the way, I want the names of those 40,000 losers because I don't want to ever have to hire those people. Don't you want that? Because I don't want to do business with those people.
No.
Like if I'm interviewing somebody for a job, right? And then I find out, boy, you're the perfect person for this job. Darn it all. Hear that you signed the petition to bring Sean McDermott back. No, you're not getting the job. You're a loser. You're an idiot. No, we're not doing this. Got to part ways with you before we even start. Again, I think Pagula is getting trashed. He is a billionaire. Yes, he has a high ego, and yes, he came looking for a fight. But I think his initial statement really wasn't that bad, and I don't think it was nearly as bad as I think people are portraying it to be. That's again, I think that's my contrarian view because everybody thinks it was a friggin' disaster. I hardly think it was a disaster, even though I will admit maybe it should be another 6 years before Pagula gets in front of a microphone.
Oh yeah, that's kind of I aired it during the show because the news conference was at 10 o'clock. My show was at 10 o'clock. And I thought of talking over it, but instead I was just kind of writing in captions. And the one I kept putting up was, once a year or so, we get reminded why we only hear from Terry Pagula once a year or so. Like, they need to keep him away. And so let's talk about his opening statement. There's no part of me that believes that he really decided it after the Denver game. But if that's the story and you want to stick with it, fine, come out and say that. But then shut up. Because you know who's good at speaking at press conferences? Brandon Beane. Whether you agree with what he's doing or not, he's very smooth. And he's very good at maintaining his points, like maintaining he's on brand. His message is on brand. And there were multiple times where he's talking and everything's fine. And Pagula's like, can I jump in here? And Beane is just like, no, you can't. Dude, just go. We got you. You made your statement. They saw your face. They needed to see your face. Opening statement, then shut up. And if they address a question to Terry, it's one thing. But him jumping in to help out Brandon Beane, who needed no help, that I thought was the least comfortable part of it. And again, a reminder why we should just keep him locked away.
But the one thing that, again, came out that, if you want to look at it as a somewhat of a positive, even when he, throws McDermott under the bus by saying he was the guy that got Keon Coleman, basically, right? I mean, that's read between the lines. Right. It was McDermott wanted Keon Coleman and Beane didn't. But even if I'm a coach, I mean, there was the old line for Parcells that if you want me to make the soup, I want to be part of the ingredients. He is telling the next possible coach, hey, you're going to be part of the ingredients. I mean, we value your say, right? It's not going to just be Brandon Beane telling you who is, the players on your team. So as bad as that one was, I think I could spin it in terms of the new coach realizing that he will have a say in the personnel, which is what I'm sure any new coach is going to want to hear.
Yeah. That said, aren't you also undercutting Brandon Beane's authority by having that sort of awkward conversation while sitting on a stage and sitting at a table, by saying, yeah, he's the GM, but he didn't make that pick. And it's like, well, he wants to own it. He's like, yeah, I did. I take input, but it's me. I'm still the GM. I'm in charge. Yeah. Like, I don't know, undermining his authority or undercutting it with words, I think was uncomfortable too. So I agree with you that aside from me believing there's zero chance that he just decided it that day, if he had just given a speech, given a little intro, and then turned it over to Brandon Beane, there'd be a lot less, I don't know, insanity about how on fire the franchise is. They've still got Josh Allen. If they lost every other player on the roster and started from scratch, they lost everybody on the coaching staff, and it's Josh plus 52, they're competing for a playoff spot next year. If you just have mid-level players everywhere, you're still going to be okay. I mean, they haven't missed the playoffs since he's become himself, and I don't anticipate it that much of it changing. Well, they're gonna rework the roster a bit. That happens every year. I don't know. No matter what, no matter who comes in, it's going to be Josh Allen's team come September, and I like Josh Allen's team. So that part, I take some solace in that.
Well, again, I'll be the contrarian to this because I think the narrative out there in the national media is that this team right now is Josh Allen and little else. And the people that wanted Beane fired for McDermott, I think in Buffalo believe that this team stinks other than Josh Allen. Wait a minute. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I mean, I think this offensive line is top 10, top 8. It's certainly in the top quarter. Maybe, some people think it's, one of the top offensive lines. Let's just say that you're a little wrong, that there are some people, and don't tell your wife. I mean, I think Deion Dawkins might be a little overrated. Please don't tell your wife I said that.
Now she's...
But, all right. So, but I still think overall this do have one of the best running backs in football. I think their tight ends are really good. Yes, they have to overhaul the receivers, but don't tell me that this offense has no talent other than Josh Allen. I think that's garbage. I think the defensive line has talent on it in terms of, I think Michael Hoyt is pretty good. I think Ed Oliver is pretty good. I think Deion Walker is pretty good. I think I really like the two linebackers, and I think you got two shutdown corners. I don't agree with the narrative that this roster stinks.
Right.
I don't think that this roster stinks, but I think a lot of people out there, even in Buffalo, believe it. And I think there are all the 40,000 people that signed that petition to keep John McDermott.
In the chat, it says that they're up to 81,000 people that have signed the petition, including some of the people who are in the chat. Like, I think he just called me a loser. But,
yes, I did. Yes, I did. Hey, but I love you. See, that's the way I always did the show. I always did my show. Listen, I'll call you a loser, but you can still call and we can still laugh about it.
Right.
Yes, I did.
Right.
I absolutely did call you a loser. I 100% did, but I still love you anyway, you loser. That's always the way I did my show. It was kind of done not in a, I'm going to kill you type of view. It's kind of fun. In a fun way, I'm calling you a loser.
I did the same for the people. We're driving home probably from basketball or something, and there are people like not marching, but like protesting, standing on a street corner on Transit Road in like Williamsville, practically Clarence. And I'm like, what are these people doing? And it was about Israel. And I thought, well, that's going to work. That's really going to be super. Like, go inside. Standing and holding an Israeli flag on the corner of Transit and Klein is not really going to do anything to solve any problems in the Middle East, and signing a petition is not going to bring back a head coach that was fired a week ago. So you got to recognize, like, fight the fights you can win. You're not going to win this one, and I get you're just signing it out of protest. You want to put your name on there. It's dumb. It's lame. It never works. So don't march on Transit Road to try to fix the Middle East, and don't sign online petitions to try to bring back a head coach who was here for 9 years.
Absolutely. I got a future bet for you already.
Oh boy.
For next year, Brad. Let's do it.
Okay.
We're in on this, right?
Okay.
Aren't we? And I don't even know what it is. I don't even care. Aren't we taking the New England under next year? Oh my God. Isn't that a future bet? This is a blind future bet. Once they have to play a first place schedule next year, I am telling you, I am all in. I just hope Vegas doesn't realize it and keeps it somewhat high. Please, especially if New England wins the Super Bowl. Oh my God, am I in on the New England under next year?
All right, let me ask.
A bet.
I'm with you. I feel that too. Counterpoint. Remember how much we thought Brady was nothing when they first won it? When we went down to New Orleans, you and I went to the Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
The Rams were 14-point favorites. They had Belichick. They had a great defensive coach that just suffocated that Rams team and made them not play a greatest show on turf, and it was just nothing down in New Orleans, and they came out on top, and that win bred confidence, and the next thing you know, you're dealing with an all-time great at quarterback. I'm not saying I see Drake May as an all-time great. I see him as a guy who's pretty impressive and pretty competent for a young player. There's a little fear in my head that this feels a lot like that year. There's even a snow game mixed in, like the tuck rule. That was all with snow, and clearing off a spot, and Vinatieri hits it, and you're like, how is this team? What's going on? How did the Raiders not win that? And the next thing you know, they're Super Bowl champions, and the next thing you know, it's 20 years, and they haven't looked back. They've got, I believe, a very good coach there, and they've got the makings of a good quarterback. So I'm a little bit fearful that if they can win this game, or even if they don't, but just going to the Super Bowl in his second year, that inspires confidence, that brings, makes free agents more inclined to go there and all that. So I'm with you. I'm leaning that way, but it does feel a little bit like 2001.
I just laugh at the standard that Josh Allen has to go with versus Drake May. Drake May can win games, 10-7, and we still like Drake May. Josh Allen scores 30 points against one of the best defenses in football, right? I mean, and gets 450 yards against that Denver defense with no receivers. In a way, I could argue that Brandon Beane, the whole Jeremy comment was right, because his comment was essentially, I trust Josh Allen even when he's throwing to deck chairs to be able to score 30 points and put up 450 yards against the Denver defense, which is exactly what he did, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what he did. But somehow he gets criticized. Drake May I saw a tweet. It's so true. It was like 13 games that Tom Brady won in the playoffs when he had either just as many interceptions as touchdowns. Like overall in these 13 wins, he had like 14 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, threw for like 200 yards, but he had Belichick.
Yeah.
So he's the GOAT. Josh Allen loses games 33-30, and there's a problem with Josh Allen. It's just like a totally different standard that Allen has to deal with than I think every other quarterback in the history of football.
Everyone makes the Bean calling Jeremy thing about wide receivers, but let's just make it about what his main point was. Our offense is not our problem. Our defense is our problem. That's why we drafted so many defensive players. And I think it's impossible to disagree with that at this point. If you have an offense led by Josh Allen, and you've got the strong O-line, and you've got James Cook behind him, and you've got these tight ends, the receivers, you're going to have 2 or 3 of them on the field at a time, and you still have 3-ish other 4 total offensive weapons. You're okay. Yeah, we're still trying to improve there. Yeah, they're probably going to use a first-round pick on a receiver or make a trade for somebody or find somebody big in free agency because they recognize it'd be a lot more fun if you had, watching Nakua the other day. Like, man, how much different is this season if you've got somebody like that or any of these JSN, like watching him. How much different would it look if you had one of these type guys? Yeah, I want that. But for now, my foundation's all right on the offensive side, and the better we get, cool. But I need to shore up the D and make sure that scoring 30 points in a playoff game is enough to get me a win.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's ultimately why McDermott got fired, and that's why I was for it, and why I'm against the now 81,000 people and some of your and some of the people listening to this show right now, apparently,
Yeah, that's
who
all
I
right.
call losers. I hope they don't hold it against me.
They won't. They get used to
No,
it.
I mean,
They'll-
no, you're right. Hey, and I got news for those people. There might be a chance in the future that I call you a loser again, but I still love you.
Perfect. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. You got it.
Great
Brad.
to talk to you. There's Bob Gahn making his weekly appearance here on Riter Radio. We got to end it the way we always do with Bob.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
All right. Here's the deal. I'm going to play a song. When we get back from the song, you're going to see and hear Nick Bakay, conversation I had with him for episode 250, which never aired live because I didn't hit the button that said go live. It exists. Episode 250 exists online. It's on YouTube. But in order to make for a better show tonight and keep my brain straight, we're going to hit play on Nick Bakay and me from the other day. And you can see, ooh, this is good. This is before and after, but in reverse. This is after, and you'll see before. The last thing I did, well, it was the night before, but my conversation with Nick, I'm on camera. There's a cartoon version of him like there is of Bob right now. And I look terrible. Now, you might contend I look terrible still, but I look terribler there because my face is all white stuff out here. The longer it gets, the whiter it gets, and the puffier and scragglier, and my hair too. It's like puffy. I'm a disaster, but I'm intentionally a disaster to create a good before and after to show the effects of going to Buffalo Trim to get groomed, as I've been saying. So I'm done with the live thing for today, but the real live thing is tonight, thecasbuffalo.com. Link is at the top of the chat. Get tickets. Come on out. Let's get as many people in there as possible because we're making a TV show is what we're doing. So those of you who are going to be in attendance, I'm going to ask you, treat it like a TV show. Something's funny, laugh, don't hold it back. You want to yell something out, yell something out. I mean, not to a point where you're ruining the show, but this should be fun. It should be interactive. It will be interactive. We're going to be bringing people up on stage to answer trivia questions. In addition to you being able to play along, bring your phone because you will use your phone for various rounds that take place. There's going to be comedy. There's going to the music, the lights, all of it. There's beer, liquor, and wine, and food. And maybe you'll be discovering a new place. I had not been in. I've seen pictures and videos, and I thought, that place looks pretty cool. And then I went in and was blown away. So it's a fantastic venue. The venue will be a major star of this show. And the venue is why I envision this whole thing as a TV show. When I was on with Jeremy and Joe this morning on GR, Jerry said something about Kill Tony, which, if you're not familiar, is a stand-up comedy-based show, but it's a variety show and it's a live show, and there's audience participation, and people can sign up and come up and do comedy. That's the driving force behind what I'm trying to put together. I'm not trying to mimic it completely, but there is something to be said for getting friends together on a real stage with real audio and real lights, and then putting a crowd in there and interacting with them in a fun way. Episode 1 is tonight. The only way to see the whole thing is to be there in person. It will be recorded. It will not be released as a full episode, although moving forward, that is a plan. So if you want to be there, in on the ground floor, episode 1, go to thecasbuffalo.com and get tickets. I'll see you there. Doors are at 5:30. Show is at 9. Show is at 7. We're done at 9. So don't worry, I can't be out late because I have to get up for work or whatever. Forget it. And it is all ages, so if the only way you can do it is you're bringing your 10-year-old along, that's fine too. I can't promise there won't be any curse words, but it's not the intention to load it up with that. Here and there, what are we going to do? It's me and my friends and beer and stage and microphones and lights and trivia and music and comedy. I don't know what else you could ask for. I've always, as a kid, I thought, do those things. What do you want to be when you grow up? And two of the funny ones that I would put, one I really wanted, one I just thought was funny to say. Race car driver was fun to say, although I didn't want to be one. And then the other was game show host. And this is essentially what I've become today. This is a lifelong dream. because it is a game show more than anything else. I'm done talking about it. Be there. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Imagine a lot of talk about this tomorrow because it's happening tonight. And maybe we'll have clips by tomorrow. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But if you want to see it and experience it, today's the day. You got to buy tickets, thecasbuffalo.com. And I'll be there. Going to hit a song here and maybe 2 songs. And then we'll be back with Nick Mackay on tape. But if you haven't seen it or heard it, you'll like it. It's good stuff. Thanks for listening to episode 252. In a couple minutes, I'll be calling it episode 250. But it won't be. It's just, it's from there. You follow? All right. Thanks. Stick around. Nick Mackay's next. This might be the first time I've used the breaking news sounder for actual breaking news. Wow, that ended quickly. That's all right. According to Adam Schefter, Joe Brady will be the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He had a tweet just as I was going to the break. So I wrapped up the conversation with Bob, talked for a couple more minutes, and then said, hey, we're going to play Nick Mackay from Friday. And that'll allow me, give me an extra, hour to get ready for tonight's show, because tonight is the debut of Brain Vault at the Cas, thecasbuffalo.com for tickets. As I hit the music and say, all right, I'll see you tonight, I saw in the chat, looks like Brady. I said, oh, if this is real, then I have to come back because we'll do this live. I'm not going to stay on the air for an hour talking about it like I normally would. We'll have plenty of time to discuss it tomorrow. But needed to at least acknowledge it. My initial reaction is, sure, that's fine. I wonder, somebody asked me Sunday, it's okay, we were at basketball, and the ref came over. He's like, I don't know what kind of inside information you have, but what are you thinking here? And I said, if I had to guess right now, I would say Brady on top with Dable as an offensive coordinator. And he's like, I hope not. And every text message I've received in the last 5 minutes has been angry. Lots of vomit faces, lots of angry faces, lots of tear faces. Hold on, I got this number. And I'm not mad. I think Bean specifically was talking about Brian Dable when saying some people are great at certain roles, but then as a head coach, not necessarily, because, the pressure of that, it's just too much. And I think that's legit. And then I just started thinking, all right, well, what makes sense here? What are we combining? Hold on one second. My buddy Bubba is one of the vomit face senders. And I said, do you want to call and be the first voice of, I just want to hear what it is that is making people so mad. And he has texted me a bunch in the last minute. But I said, just call and we'll work it out. Because to me, I don't know Joe Brady. I know he's been successful. I know he seems well-liked. I know he's fun on camera. He was fun to watch on Hard Knocks. To me, the head coach thing is, are you organized? Do you have this together to lead the whole thing? And if you're thinking you don't like Joe Brady as a head coach because you didn't like the screen passes to Khalil Shakir, I don't think that's what it's about. But I am curious to hear because, I'm receiving nothing from anyone in my phone, and this is all just in the last 5 minutes. It's nothing but vomit faces, angry faces, crying faces, and this is terrible, unbelievable. What are they doing next? It's bad. One of those guys is my man Bubba, who I asked to call in and be the voice of the angry fan. Because, man, I'm looking at this going, sure, it's fine, but you and everyone else I know who's blowing up my phone right now is pissed. So explain to me your unhappiness with this decision. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to understand.
I guess the way I would start it is, to me, this is an extremely lazy way to treat the best player that may have ever played the position at quarterback. You literally watched a guy take the MVP, which I guess you could say was under his tutelage, but it really wasn't. Anybody with any football knowledge would know that Josh Allen really carried that horrible play calling, and most of the things that was successful in that offense were predicated on Josh Allen making a play or being desperate and making a play or feeding the running game. Not being able to scheme wide receivers open, was a crutch for 2 straight years. And then obviously front office not addressing weapons can be all factored into McDermott being fired. But at the end of the day, what winning organization would promote from a head coaching staff that they just fired? How does that calculate to winning when the philosophies that were in-house already were obviously broken and contributed to you losing in the playoffs? So you are promoting from losing. Just like when McDermott and Bean should have been fired after 13 seconds. Any winning organization does not give contract extensions to people who fail. So anybody who thought McDermott should have been kept, look at who's playing in the Super Bowl. Look at the quarterbacks. Yet we couldn't get Josh Allen there in 8 years. I mean, guys, you can't reward failure. Failure is something that Buffalo is so used to, and we get a good feeling guy who we have to give credit to in McDermott, who changed the culture. He came in and, changed the Rex Ryan, Doug Marrone joke that was here that everyone knew would be a joke when they hired him. He came in and righted the ship, but let's face it, all of the success of Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, Joe Brady, Brian Daboll, Ken Dorsey, all of it is Josh Allen. Brandon Beane is relevant because of Josh Allen. He made one good move in the draft, moving up for Josh Allen and taking him. And I guess that got him president. But after that has been one failure after the other in the first 3 rounds, with the exception of James Cook. So why everyone's mad about Joe Brady? His offense is terrible. It exposed Josh Allen to injury. He is now going into the second part of his prime, and you exposed him to 40 sacks or more and countless hits because he had to hold the ball because none of your receivers could get open. And when everybody knows in the entire NFL that you run the ball up the middle every first down, then you really only have to play defense for 2 downs. And if you take out James Cook and you take out Josh Allen, you stop the Buffalo Bills. Well, now that's your new head coach. So what are his philosophies now going to change on how to protect his franchise quarterback when he's the reason that Josh Allen is going to be having foot surgery? He's the reason Josh Allen had a broken hand last year. Like, these are just common sense things. You're promoting from a losing team. Enough said right there.
Are you making an assumption, though, that everyone there is responsible? Like, do you blow out the entire staff and start over when you've made the playoffs 8 or whatever it is, 7 consecutive years, and you've won 5 division titles, and you were pretty close this year to winning it again, and you made the playoffs again, and you've won it, into the second round of the playoffs each of the last 6 years? Like, all that stuff is not abject failure. It's not quite getting over the top, and that to me doesn't mean everyone's got to go. You've got very specific things that you're attributing to Joe Brady. I mean, you're pointing, and I love it. You're pointing at, you're going to blame a hand injury on the guy who was the offensive coordinator and then say that means he can't be a head coach. I think it's 2 different jobs. I think that's part of what you're hearing with Dable too. Like, I wouldn't feel super comfortable with Dable stepping in as a head coach, but I would feel comfortable with him as the offensive coordinator. And maybe they say, hey, Brady's more of an organized kind of CEO type.
The Dayball situation, you're dealing with an ego. He doesn't want to be a offensive coordinator. He wants to be a head coach. And I'll backtrack on the Brady thing. The reason I pointed out the hand injury is because when you have such a basic offense that all you can do on 3rd and 1 is do a tush push every single time and have absolutely no creativity, you are exposing your quarterback. Right, and you're exposing your quarterback to needless hits in games that may or may not matter. So eventually, once you could be 6'8", 400 pounds at quarterback, but if you get hit with a helmet on your hand 55 times a season, once it's going to break eventually. And you're exposing him to those hits because you have absolutely no creativity. When you're running this offense, you watch all of this motion and misdirection to throw a 2-yard pass. When the linebackers are now built like safeties, and safeties are now unworldly athletes, you're not going to score that way unless your quarterback is willing you down the field. And that means holding the ball, waiting for guys to get open, holding the ball, waiting for some concept to throw a 2-yard screen while taking a clean shot from a defensive tackle. That's all schematic, Brad. That's all coming from Joe Brady. He looked at that offense, looked at the best quarterback in the NFL and said, you know what? We should run the ball two to three times every series and throw a 2-yard pass with a guy that can throw the ball 80 yards. We should never give him a receiver who runs a 4-3. We should never give him receivers who know how to get open downfield. We should give him 2 tight ends. This is called the 1985 Bears offense. 2 tight end, power football, expose into the flats. Simple defense. All you have to do is spy Allen and literally keep your safeties deep and bring everybody up anytime they throw in the flats. That's what you watched us get stuffed on over and over until Josh Allen willed us down the field and made plays that no one else can make. That's the success of the offense. Daboll was successful because he used Josh Allen's talents and told him, go out there and play Josh Allen football under control. Look at what happened, 5,000 yards receiving, MVP candidate every single year. We moved the ball on every single team. But what failed us? McDermott and his defense. Every single playoff run, we put up 30 points and still lost.
Yep.
That's defense. That's not on the offense. So McDermott can fuck off. Brady can fuck off. I guess you could bring Daboll back as an offensive coordinator, but not when Brady is the helm. They're completely 2 different contradicting offenses. They're not going to work under the same roof. So, I mean, this is just a bad move because you're going to have Brady's offense again exposing a 30-year-old quarterback to 40 sacks.
All right, so what I'm hearing here is that if I'm right and that Daboll is the offensive coordinator and it's not Brady's offense, it's Brady's team, but he's got a sense of how to deal with Josh, and then Daboll comes back with the offense, and we're throwing out whatever's been going on the last couple of years since Daboll went to the Giants, you're going to have a little bit of a change of heart, but you just don't believe that's going to happen. So we're going to talk to you again. Why have I not had you on before? I mean, we have these conversations.
I'm too busy coaching your kid in baseball.
I know, but I need you for the football stuff. You're
anytime,
new.
Man.
Yeah, we're doing this again. All right, I got to go. I was going to wrap up the show early, and then the Bills hired a coach, and I was like, well, let's talk to Bubba.
Thing.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'll be Bubba the Angry.
All right, angry Bubba. All right,
Take care, guys.
Thanks, dude. Bubba. We'll just go with Bubba. I've known him as Bubba. He's Brian, but I've known him as Bubba forever. Everybody else calls him Coach Brian. I just call him Bubba. I knew him when he was little. He was never little. He was big when he was little, but he's like 5-6 years younger than me probably, and lived across the street from my super good friend. So I used to hang out with my friend and then his older brother, Bubba's older brother, and then Bubba was just the kid that was around. You know, we're 12 and he's 7 and he's playing football with us in the street. Cheek to Wagga rules, which is touch in the street and tackle on the sidelines, tackle on the grass. Stay in the middle of the road. Nobody tackled you. Get near the curb. Get near the curb and sidewalk. Now tackling's okay. That's the kind of mentality we grew up with playing football. So, yeah, we'll have Bubba on again. That was cool. All right, I'm done for real. Thank you. That was an angry Bubba, says Nick. Yeah. So, yeah, I think our fundamental disagreement there is, will Daboll show up as an offensive coordinator? I think he will. I think this is a part of it. And that, I like that. I think they haven't been quite the same since he was the OC. And I think Bean was referencing him when talking about, you know, some people are better suited for certain things. I think that's totally right. So just because an offense is going well somewhere doesn't mean I need, let's say, Clint Kubiak, for example. I like the pedigree. I like the name. I like all of that. Everything about him sounded cool. But, he's the Rams passing game coordinator. Well, he's got Stafford. Stafford's going to the Hall of Fame. Stafford won a Super Bowl before him. Stafford's a #1 overall draft pick that's been around forever. He's coordinating Stafford. You got Nakua to throw to. I don't know. It seems to me, I don't know Joe Brady. But it seems to me if you go through this process and you interview this many people, and Josh Allen is a part of it, I think it's very realistic that Brady comes back and he's still connected in this Dable situation. And not just putting the band back together, rearranging it, solving for the defensive flaws that have happened, add some receivers, and you keep playing the same. It's a pretty good song that they've been playing the duration since 2000, let's say. It's a pretty good song. So just play that song again and improve upon it. Add some backing vocals here and some, extra drummer or something over here. You can make this thing sing. Look at the teams in the Super Bowl. Are those teams infinitely better than the Bills? The Bills were playing 2 weeks ago and lost a game we felt like they very easily could have, should have won. They're right there. If they were in this game against New England on Sunday, McDermott probably still has a job. They probably beat that team. You're probably going to the Super Bowl. You're that close. So I get why he was fired, but I also get why you're not blowing up everything. The team is not a miserable failure. The team hasn't won the Super Bowl. Hasn't been to the Super Bowl. Got to clean it up. We don't have to fire the entire band. Just run it back. Add some harmonies. I'm not saying it's an amazingly great hire. There's another world in which I'm picturing the Patriots hiring Gerard Mayo last year. Like, let's just promote from within. Let's keep the vibe going. Well, the vibe was no good. They were a 4-win team, and then they were a 4-win team again. I think that's right. I think they went 4-13 or 4-12, 4-13. I don't remember when the extra game came in. But I think they won 4 games. Belichick left. And they're like, well, we're still pretty good. Let's just stick with this guy who's here and was in over his head. And then they replace him with a coach. And they're in the Super Bowl. So maybe if this is the Gerard Mayo 1-year failure that leads to the hiring of the real coach because you got to fix it, I've got time for that too. I don't think that's what they're looking for. Obviously, it's not what they're looking for. It's not what I'm looking for. But even if it turns out that way, we're like, all right, we think if we make this little change, we're pretty good. So they make a little change. And it's not a little change. Sean McDermott has been running that team. He has defined the organization. As much as Josh Allen has been the player that is the face of it, McDermott coming in put this thing back together and turned it into kind of a machine. Does it all happen without Josh? Probably not. But could it have happened with someone who's not quite Josh? Yep, probably. Would it feel the same? Josh has made everyone love him. That's different. He's a different player than I've ever experienced in any sport, where it's just universal appeal. Even if you don't consider him the greatest player of all time, you're like, it's a good dude. He's fun to watch. Seems like a nice guy. Doesn't cause any problems. Go win with him. So let's try this. And the fact that he's in on all the conversations, I trust that this is a good fit. On the surface, whether fans love it or not, I don't know. That's why I had Bubba on, though. Like, explain this to me. Explain all these angry text messages I'm receiving. Guy got hired 5 minutes ago. Is there swearing on Trivia Vault? It's called Brain Vault, and I can't vouch for everyone's mouths. I'll keep myself under control, I'm sure, for the most part. But, we're promoting it as an all-ages show. You might, it's not going to be gross. But if a couple of words come flying out here and there, I don't think it's a problem. We'll see. It's the first one. Please come. Buy tickets, thecasbuffalo.com. We'll talk a lot about the Joe Brady thing tomorrow. Again, this is all assuming Adam Schefter's right, but I think we can assume Adam Schefter's right. He started with the Bills are working to finalize a deal, and then he retweeted himself with Joe Brady is signing a 5-year deal with Buffalo. That was 26 minutes ago. Let's see. More about the Bills and Joe Brady reaching an agreement on a 5-year deal to make him Buffalo's new head coach. I guess I'll click on this. I'll click on the Schefter story. We'll do that. I do have to go. I got to get ready. All right. The Bills have agreed to promote offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach. Sources told Adam Schefter. Brady's expected to sign a 5-year deal. Replaces McDermott. Brady, 36, has been with the organization since 2022. initially joining former coach Sean McDermott's staff as the team's quarterbacks coach. He was promoted to interim offensive coordinator in November of 23. After the Ken Dorsey firing, he was the team's full-time OC 24 and 25. Since promoting Brady in Week 11 of 2023, the Bills have ranked first in EPA per play and second in points per game. The Bills had 9 games of 30-plus points this season, tied with the Rams for the most in the NFL. Allen won his first MVP in 2024, while running back James Cook finished with the rushing title in 2025. These are all impressive. The Bills' offense in 2024 also broke records for most points and touchdowns in a season in franchise history. He's a William and Mary grad, as is McDermott, and former college wide receiver, has a very close relationship with Josh Allen, who was part of the interview process for coach. Before his time with the Bills, Brady was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers for 2 seasons and the passing game coordinator / wide receivers coach at LSU during the team's national championship run. And that's all they've got on the story. So that's just who is Joe Brady for people who don't know. We know. I'm all right with it. It's fine. I didn't need everything blown up. I was surprised. I thought it might be time to move on from McDermott. I didn't think they'd do it, but they did. But it's not blow everything up time. They're good. I think they're better than the Patriots. Patriots are in the Super Bowl. I'll have more thoughts when I fully process it. Go to the CazBuffalo.com and buy tickets. Come see us tonight. It's me, Greg Bauk, alphabetically. Greg Bauk, Tim Graham, and Jeremy White will all be on stage for Brain Vault tonight and every Tuesday, but this is the first one coming out. It'll be fun. We're having a party in South Buffalo in a really cool venue. You'll love it. We'll see you there. My apologies to Nick Bakay, who got bumped from the show. First, we have him on, and then the show doesn't air on Friday. Then I air it on Saturday. And again, if you want to find it, you can go find it. It's episode 250. It exists on YouTube. And it's the last, 55 minutes of that is Bakay. So if you want to just jump ahead, you'd be skipping Tim Graham and Scott Wilson, which is dumb. But if you don't have 3 hours to sit and listen to a show from a couple days ago, I understand. And I will, at some point, air the Bakay conversation in the flow of the live show. But that was not meant to be today, because just as I was about to do it, we got word that Joe Brady is the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills. The most interesting thing to me now is the coordinator situation, and maybe we'll get that fairly quickly too. I have a hunch that Brian Daboll comes back under Joe Brady, which takes away some of the fire from my man Bubba calling in, telling me why this hire sucks. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you tonight. Thank you for watching, listening, being a part of. Thanks to Bob Gaughan for joining the show. Poor Bob. We had Bob on for half an hour. And I'm like, all right, bye, Bob. And then I look at the screen. It's like, Joe Brady, head coach. I'm sure we'll talk about it next week. It'll be fine. All right, we're done.
What are you doing for lunch?
I don't know. I have a turkey sandwich.
We're gonna go around the corner. I think you should come with us. This is a great place.
I don't know. Okay.
We brought you a shirt.
You get out of here? Will you get out of here? Will you? Now, will you go to lunch? Go to lunch. Will you go to lunch?